Okay, so how to PvP on Rogue. Before we get into the Rogue side of things, there are a couple things that you need to learn regardless of whatever class you're playing, right? The first thing is armor. What different tiers of armor looks like. If you see someone in full grey, they're going to be in full grey. They're going to be weak. It's not like Dark and Darker. If you've ever played that game, it didn't matter what you look like, you would not be able to tell what kind of gear they had unless they had things like a cape. In this game, it's very different. If you have good looking gear, it means you have good gear. Learning what the different tiers of armor looks like will help you learn who to fight and who not to fight. There is only 3 different types of armor. There is the leather armor, the cloth armor, and then the plate armor. Now, quite a lot of people have their helmets on hidden, so people will hide their helmet. Maybe they'll just have this on, things like that. So it might be best to learn what the chest plates look like and things like that. But yeah, that's to help you understand who to fight, who not to fight. If you're geared, it means that you want to be fighting with people like this because you want to get their gear and then sell it on. Or maybe you're under-geared and you don't want to fight them because you're going to get wrecked. So that's something you need to learn. The second thing you need to learn is spawn points. Spawn points will help you not die, or on the other hand, get more kills, right? Playing a map like the castle map, the spawns on the castle map are not as complicated as Sinner's End. Learning the spawn points of Sinner's End will take longer, but it is doable. There's not that many spawn points, but the map's a lot more complicated than the castle map. The castle map, though, is very PvP orientated. So learning the spawn points on the castle map will help you out a lot. Not only for getting gear, but also just knowing where people are. If you're under geared, you want to stay away from them. You know roughly where they'll be, so you can stay away or just be alert to where they could be. And like I said, vice versa. If you wanted to go get kills and you want to play on the castle map, you know where they spawn, or you'll know where a lot of the spawn points are at least. Right, now about the rogue. Before we get on to how to counter every class or how to play against every class playing as a rogue, there are a few things you need to understand about the rogue, right? The rogue class naturally has a lot of dexterity, right? We don't have too much strength and we definitely don't have much stamina at all. So we are very weak in terms of health and our damage output is not the best, but we are fast, right? So you will pretty much never ever win a 1 versus 1, like full out fighting, not using any of your abilities, not using any kind of advantage or anything like that. You will never win. Unless obviously you're like really geared and the person you're against has got nothing, right? So you always need to have an advantage. Playing as rogue, you want to be like sitting in a corner, waiting for someone to come past, backstab them. You want to use your petrify to heal up. You want to stop people from casting. You want to give yourself as much of an advantage as you can. So, right, let's get into it. So, the abilities first. I see some people running Quick Blades, and I see some people using Vanish. I personally do not use these. I use Petrifying Poison and Swift Concealment. The reason I don't use Quick Blades is because it's very situational. There are 2 ways to use Quick Blades, right? The first way is to use it to dash away, because you do like a little dash backwards and you throw the knives out. You do a bit of damage, nothing crazy. Some people use it as a slow and then they'll run up on them and then attack them. Both, it's very situational. I think if you're rogue versus rogue, maybe it might be good. If you're playing against a mage that has no abilities left, maybe really good. But yeah, I don't think it's the best. It doesn't do too much. If like a Death Knight pulls you in, you could use it to dash away, things like that. But I personally don't think it's very good. I always use Petrifying Poison. And I'll get onto the reason why when I go over how to counter every class, or how to play against every class, should I say. Petrifying Poison will always be the go-to, unless they make Quick Blades amazing, but it's not anywhere near Petrifying Poison at the moment. So between Vanish and Swift Concealment, if you're full grey, just starting off, I would go for Vanish, just because you do not want to be doing any PvP. A lot of people you'll be playing against will have gear, or they'll be level 20, they'll have meds, they'll have all this kind of stuff. You just want to be in the corner doing nothing and farming mobs and chests until you get some gear. So Swift Concealment you want to use when you have gear, right? It's an instant stealth. You don't have to do any kind of casting, it's just instant and you're invisible for 6 seconds. You're not using it for the stealth, you're using it so you can get your strength upgrade off. When in stealth, unblocked attacks apply poison, which does 150 damage over 3 seconds. So it's a free 150 damage as well as your attack. Whereas if you're maybe running away, you can still use it. Instantly you're stealthed. If you get far enough away, you become virtually invisible. And then you can run away and restart, right? Let's get on to how to play against every class. Like I said, you need to get yourself the biggest advantage that you can get over your opponent. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely difficult and you may just die. So the most popular classes in solos right now is probably the Swordmaster, Death Knight, rogue, and the fighter. So first off, the Swordmaster and the Death Knight are pretty much the same. With the Swordmaster, their E ability is their Whirling Blade. If they are ungeared, this will do some damage, but not too much, and it won't really affect that much of the fight. But when they do get geared and they get their stamina upgrade, they will take 50% reduced damage. So for 8 seconds, they're going to take 50% less damage, which is huge. The rogue damage output is not that great as it is, and it's now going to be even worse when that's up, if they have the stamina upgrade. What you need to do, if they use that ability, you need to go ahead and petrify them. Because if you petrify them, by the time they come out of their petrify, their Whirling Blade will be down and it will be on cooldown. So they can't use it again, not straight away at least anyway. That way, he will now take full damage that you do to him, and you have a more of a fair fight. Plus also, when you use your petrify on them, because you might want to do it when you're maybe about half HP, something like that, you want to petrify them, and then while they're petrified and their Whirling Blade is going off and being useless, you can heal up and also use a pot, because what you want in your slots is you want your Flask of Shielding, you want a healing pot, and then you want either a bandage or some type of flask that you can use as well. So when you petrify, you want to use a healing potion and a Flask of Shielding, and then when that Flask of Shielding finishes, the moment that finishes should be the time that they come out of their petrify, if you've timed it correctly. Or if you use your healing potion and then your bandage, they will then come out of that petrify after you finish your bandage. You want to give yourself the biggest advantage you can when they come out of it. Now, in terms of their Personic Blades, you just need to kind of keep close to walls, to doors, to AI, things like that. Anything that you can hide behind so they don't hit the blades, basically. Because there's a lot of damage that they can do with that, right? As a rogue, Personic Blades is not very good to go against. So just try and dodge it if you can. Death Knight is kind of the same. A lot of people run Soul Shroud. They can run Soul Storm, but a lot of people do seem to be running Soul Shroud at the moment. Soul Shroud is when they kind of put their fist into the ground and then they have that shroud thing around them that deals damage. They cannot turn it off. They cannot turn it off. So just like the Swordmaster, when they use that, you're going to petrify them. You're then going to heal up, pot up, all that kind of stuff, and then by the time they come out of their petrify, their Soul Shroud will be down, and then all you have to look out for is their grasp. So a lot of Death Knights will actually use their grasp straight into their Soul Shroud, and that way their abilities are down, you've petrified them, they're all on cooldown, and there's nothing you can do besides just do normal fighting, right? If they're smart, they'll use Soul Shrouds if they can get on top of you, and then when you try and run away, they will grasp you. As long as you petrify when they use a Soul Shroud, you should be okay. And then give yourself the advantage. Do your fighting. If you can kill them, great. But playing against a Death Knight can be quite difficult, so do be careful. Especially a geared one. A geared one will be very, very hard to kill. If they have Soul Storm, which is basically the same as Soul Shroud, except for they can turn it off and on whenever they want. What you want to do is you want to fight them when you get low, petrify them, heal up, pot up, all that kind of stuff, and then go again. Or you can just run away. Because like I said, Death Knights are very hard to deal with. I'll do Rogue at the end because Rogue v Rogue can be a little complicated. So we'll go for the Pyromancer and the Cryomancer next. So Pyromancer, unfortunately, Pyromancer is also quite a big counter to Rogue. If you're playing on the castle map, it's so open that mages actually do have a big advantage on that map. If they get somewhere high or somewhere quite open, they have a very big advantage with their abilities and stuff like that and their slows. So it can be difficult. But what you want to do is if you're in close quarters or if you're on Sinner's End and you're in a room with them or something like that, or you hear them coming towards you, I know it's not the best way to play the game, but sit in a corner, sit next to the door, wait for them to come through, get a backstab. Or if you have the height advantage on the castle map and you have the drop on them, get that backstab in, do as much damage as you can. They will do a lot of damage after they fire blast you away and do their pyroblast and stuff, but they shouldn't kill you really. If you do happen to get on top of them and they're doing a lot of damage and they've almost killed you, just once again petrify them, heal up, pot up, all that kind of stuff, go again. If they use their fire blast, the cooldown on it is not massively long, but it is quite a decently long cooldown. The Pyroblast is non-existent in terms of cooldown. It just depends on how much mana they have. But if you're on top of them, they won't be able to do too much damage with Pyroblast. Especially the stage 1. Stage 2 will do so much damage you don't even want to find out. Another thing you can do with the Pyromancer is if you see they have a stage 2 Pyroblast, or even if they're just sat there channeling it for a really long time, what you can do is if you throw a Thunderclap Flask at them, it will cancel out their Pyroblast and they have to do it again. And that takes me on to Cryomancer. So Cryomancer, a lot of people run Ice Storm, which is that little icicle that they can control that then after a few seconds gets really big, doesn't do much damage, but it slows you quite a lot. If you throw a Thunderclap Flask at them while they're in the first stage of moving that little icicle around, it will cancel it out and it'll go on cooldown. And the cooldown is something like 10 seconds or something like that. So you get ages to get on top of them. In solos, some people run Frostbite because you haven't got the Ice Storm, you can't get countered by the Thunderclap Flask, and the damage is not amazing, but the slow is pretty good. So people do run it. It doesn't do a lot of damage this build. It's more annoying than anything else, really. Unfortunately, it is more about trying to get the drop on them, get as close to them as you can. With the Cryomancer, there's not much they can do to get away from people. So as long as you get on top of them, you should be okay. And then, yeah, if they start doing too much damage, Petrify, and you know the deal. Their E ability is their Ice Armor or Frost Barrier. Once again, a lot of people do run Frost Barrier. If they do, that's okay. They don't regain much health from Frost Barrier. You just can't do any damage. If they do use Frost Barrier, just heal up a little bit. Ice Armor is a little different though. It gives a very small shield. It's nothing too much really. It's been buffed recently, but it's still not that good. And yeah, it will slow the attacker, but you're a rogue. Your attack speed is so high, it's not really going to matter. So Druid varies, right? So if you are pretty geared and you have a lot of dexterity, you will be able to catch up a Druid who is in Panther form every day of the week, unless a Druid has like a crazy amount of dexterity. But they don't really build too much dexterity. They build a little bit of everything because their main damage output is the Treant. The one thing you need to look out for is the Treant. If they have a Treant up and they're fighting underneath it, you don't want to deal with them because your damage output is so low that you won't be able to kill the Treant, and the Treant's going to do a lot of damage to you because you don't have much health either. You kind of have to rely on the Druid either messing up their Treant, like placing it too far away or something, not standing underneath it, or if they're just messing around, they're not looking at you and you get a free backstab and you've done quite a lot of damage, because Druids don't have much health either. They have about the same amount of health, maybe a little bit more than a rogue, because they do build some stamina, but not too much. Druid is quite difficult to deal with sometimes. If you're playing on Sinner's End and you come across a Druid, don't chase them because they are leading you to a corridor where they can put a Treant either right behind you so you can't get away, or right in front of you in a doorway so you can't get to them. And because you're a rogue, you won't be able to kill that Treant before it kills you. So don't chase a Druid in Sinner's End. Castle is kind of different, but don't chase them in a hallway or anything like that, something that's enclosed, because they will trap you. And then you just can't do anything, and it's just not great. It's not great at all. The Treant will also give them a shield. So every time the Treant attacks, it gives the Druid a shield. It's very, very annoying. A lot of people are complaining on Discord about how OP Druid is at the moment, especially in solos. They're going to be nerfed soon, don't worry. If the Druid is smart, they will just stay and fight with the Treant. If they're stupid, they'll try and run, and then you can kill them. But yeah, if they don't run, there's not too much you can do about it, really. On to the fighter. So the fighter is mixed emotions, especially in a Discord community. You either love the fighter or you hate him. People say he's too OP, some people say he's useless, right? Unfortunately, in a 2v2, 3v3 situation, he is useless. In solos, he can actually be quite good. It's his whirlwind ability that everyone complains about. If you're playing against a fighter and they start using their whirlwind ability, just block. If you hold your block and you get hit by the whirlwind, you'll get sent back so far away that they won't be able to hit you anymore, right? So what some people do is they block the whirlwind, they get sent really far back, and then they turn around to either run away or they get a bandage out or something to start healing, and then the fighter uses charge and they get on top of them and then they die, and then the people complain that fighter is too OP. Just keep holding your block. Whatever you do, just keep holding block, because they're going to use both their abilities to try and kill you. After those two abilities are down, there is nothing they can do, and because you're a rogue, you have so much more dexterity than them. You can just run away, heal up, take your time, and go back in whenever you want. They panic, they don't block, they die. Just block. All you gotta do is block. And yeah, you will take damage because you've only got daggers, but you will not take anywhere near as much damage as if you were to not block. If they use Battlecry, you just need to kind of run. Like I said, you have a lot of dexterity compared to them. Even with Inspire or Charge, if they use Battlecry, for 5 seconds, they're going to be a tank. Because they get their physical resistance, so they're going to take less damage. They get their attack damage increase, so they're going to be doing even more damage. And they get lifesteal. So they're getting lifesteal, they're doing more damage, and they're taking less damage. So they're basically a raid boss for about 5 seconds. You do not want to deal with them. Just run away for 5 seconds, because you will not be able to kill them, unless they're very low, obviously. Inspire is just an increase in movement speed. It's for people who are nearby, so this is more of a 2v2, 3v3 scenario. Not really in solos, but people still do run it. And the movement speed is pretty good, but it's not anything crazy. Just block you'll get sent away after they've attacked once and they're running towards you again. It's 3 seconds gone already, so you'll be okay. The big issue as well is a shield. So dealing with a shield can be quite difficult, which is why I would always run a crossbow as my secondary. Just because if I am geared and I'm running a crossbow, I can use my instant stealth to gain my poison, shoot them with a crossbow in the head. I'm doing about 300 to 400 damage completely for free by doing a ranged attack in stealth, right? Can be a very tedious, long-winded fight against someone with a shield. Just remember they have very small mobility, so use that to your advantage. Priest. I've been playing this game since it released. I played it for the whole of the last beta and the whole of the beta before that. I've only ever came against a priest once in solos. So I'd be very surprised if you come across any, because they do barely any damage. But just in case you do, a way to counter it is that most of them will run Divine Guidance because it's an AoE heal, but it also deals damage. So they like to stand in one place. They like to just spam it on the floor next to them while you run at them, because you'll take damage from it and they'll also heal from it. Just don't stand in it. Yes, they're going to heal up. That's okay. Let him use all the mana that he wants. When he's empty on mana, he's going to be spending the rest of the time running around and you can just try and kill him. They don't do much damage. This is the only damaging ability that they have. This is another heal. This is a shield. This is a shield. So they only do damage with this and their weapon. Just let them heal. It's fine. Let them waste their mana. It's okay. I think, is that everyone besides the rogue? We've done fighter, done priest, done pyro, done death knight, done cryomancer, done swordmaster, done druid. It is just the rogue next. So I always thought that whoever used petrify first lost the fight, right? Because what you want to do 9 times out of 10 is that if you ever petrify an enemy, it's because you're low on health and you either want to get away or you want to give yourself the advantage over the fight. So you petrify, you run away, or you petrify and you heal up, you med up, you use your flask of protection, and then you go again. Whereas in rogue versus rogue, if you petrify first and then you do your heal and your shield, the enemy rogue is going to come out of their petrify and he's going to petrify you next straight away, and then he's going to shield up and heal up, and then by the time you come out of your petrify, your shield is down, so they have the massive advantage. So I always thought whoever petrified first would win the fight, but that's not the case. That is not the case at all. If you ever petrify the enemy first and then do your heal up and your shield up, and they come out of their petrify, be prepared for their petrify. So you can block the petrify on any class, no matter what class you're playing, no matter what weapon you're using, you can block the petrify. And if you block the petrify goes on cooldown. So if I was to use petrify and I hit a shield, the enemy wouldn't get petrified and my petrify ability would go on cooldown. So if you petrify an enemy rogue and heal up and do your stuff and they come out, they're going to petrify you. So just be completely ready for that, right? And once again, it is, if you are geared, using your swift concealment, get that instant invisibility, use your strength upgrades. It's about knowing what the enemy's going to do, right? If they petrify you first, they may be ready to block your petrify. So you need to make sure you don't go straight in with a petrify afterwards. You want to attack a little bit, maybe use a crossbow. You can actually use your petrify on a crossbow. So it actually used to be an ability that you had to unlock, but now you can actually use it on your crossbow whenever you want. So if you have a crossbow in your secondary, you can petrify with your crossbow, just hit them in the feet or something so they can't block it. You get an easy petrify off, and then you can heal up and do what you need to, and then their shield will go down, right? And for anyone who's watching this who wants to know how to play it against a rogue, it's the exact same thing. They will want to attack you as much as they can until they get too low, and then they're going to petrify you, right? So if you're playing a Death Knight and you get 2, maybe 3 hits off, they're going to want to petrify you soon. So just get ready to block. I'll show you as well. If we go into the training room, if you hear this noise, their petrify is up, and their next attack is going to petrify you, right? And if you hear that noise, it's gone. It's being used. So as long as you block when you hear that noise, you know that they will not be able to petrify you and that their ability is going to go on cooldown. And that is how you counter rogue. And then also quickly, just before we finish the video, a little tip for any class, no matter who you're playing. As of right now, when this video has been uploaded, the Thunderclap Flask is super overpowered, right? For every class you're playing. If you're playing a Death Knight and you want to chase down a rogue, use a Thunderclap Flask on them, slow them down, you can get on top of them, deal damage. If you're a rogue playing against a druid, use a Thunderclap Flask, slow them down, get on top of them, attack them. No matter what class you're playing, even cryo, I use it on my cryo at the moment. So my cryo class, my cryomancer, I have currently 5 of them, but I usually have like 6. I use my Q to slow them down. I use my orb to slow them down as well. I then have my thunderclap to keep them slowed as well. I have so much slows on my cryomancer because my damage output isn't amazing, but I have it on every single class. No matter what class I play, I will always have thunderclap flasks on me. They are probably going to get nerfed in the near future, but definitely abuse them while you still can. So a quick recap, everyone needs to learn what different tiers of armor looks like. You need to learn where the spawn points are for the maps, so you know where to avoid or where you want to go to get kills. You counter a lot of classes' abilities by just using your petrifying poison. You need to abuse your dexterity, have as much dexterity as you can so you can abuse every other class that has not as much movement speed, and then use your thunderclap flasks to counter people like the cryomancer, the pyromancer, things like that. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I feel like a lot of things I've spoken about will translate over to other classes. Understanding what every class does will help you a lot. Understanding what every class's stat upgrades are will also help you as well, because I didn't even know until I started playing Swordmaster that if I upgraded my stamina, I would take 50% less damage if I just used my Whirling Blade, which is huge because I'm able to stand on top of a Death Knight or a Warrior. I'm not only dealing damage with my Whirling Blade, but I'm taking 50% less damage and also dealing damage with my sword, which is huge. It's actually huge. It's massive, right? But I didn't know that until I started playing Swordmaster. So yeah, another tip I guess would be to play different classes. I got level 20 on most classes. I've got 3 classes to go. I'm not looking forward to doing Priest on solos, but we'll see how that goes. And my last tip would be to play multiple classes. Give it a go, and yeah, have fun, honestly. If there's anything I kind of missed out, let me know. I can always try and help out in the comment section. Just leave a comment below and I'll try and answer any kind of questions that anyone has that I may have not answered in this video. But yeah, I still have no outro, so I'll catch you in the next one.